What is going on, guys? We are back. Realistic Randy, Rick Sosa from Maximo Avence. I don't know if I keep getting it wrong or right, but I'm going to keep rolling with it. We are back, and we are back with the 2019 Minnesota Vikings prediction or schedule prediction. So let's start off first. Week 1 at home versus the Atlanta Falcons. Rick, who do you got in this game?
Well, we just got done talking in the previous segment about preseason, so I'll stick to the preseason reference. The Atlanta Falcons have been having lots of problems protecting Matt Ryan during preseason.
Yeah. Yep.
To the point where I think in one game he was sacked 3 times in the quarter, and he was hit 7 times. One of those plays, he actually got up and spiked the ball to the ground, and he was kind of yelling at his offensive lineman. So, I mean, they're having those kinds of problems on preseason protecting Matt Ryan. I think the Vikings have a great opportunity in this game to be able to pressure the quarterback. Vic Beasley, if they keep him under control, I think the Vikings take that game at home.
Cool. Yeah, I got them winning too. I think it's going to be in the region of maybe like 27-16, somewhere along those lines. I got Vikings as well.
I got Vikings too, just because, like you mentioned, Rick, their offensive line, I went ahead and watched their preseason. Their offensive line is terrible. For everybody that's looking for reasons to poke holes through our offensive line, which I think our offensive line is improved, by the way. Take a look at the Atlanta Falcons. My God, they are a disaster. I think
the Texans.
They are going to feast. Our defensive line, they are going to feast on the Falcons offensive line. That's a win, straight up.
Yeah, and the crowd's going to be going for that season opener. I think they're going to make a huge difference in this game as well. So, okay, we all got Vikings in that one. Week 2, first divisional game of the year on the road against the Packers. Who you got, Randy?
I'm going to say this is a loss. I think our cornerback group they're already shaky at best right now. I think Aaron Rodgers, Matt LaFleur, that new offensive scheme that they have, they really, really should have beat us last year, week 2. But I think they're going to come out with a vengeance, that aerial attack that they're going to have. And the thing we got to remember, folks, is that the Rams last year really, really put the blueprint, and even the Eagles in the NFC Championship game in 2017, they really put the blueprint on how to attack our defense. Our defense, go over the top, and our Xavier Rhodes, he's gone to hell. His talents has gone. I don't know where the hell it's gone. I think Green Bay is going to win this one.
Okay. What about you, Rick?
Well, I think that we gave him a good run with a very unbalanced offensive playbook with John DeFilippo last year. I think this year we'll control the tempo of the game with the rushing commitment that we have for this season. So I'm going to say the Vikings go on the road and beat the beginning of a dysfunctional Green Bay Packer relationship between Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur.
It sounds great. It really does. And I'm right on the fence with this one because when you beat a team so many times in a row, whether that be on the road or at home, well, one tie, I guess, but it starts creeping into like, okay, eventually they're going to beat us eventually. Like, so it's kind of getting to that point. It's a rivalry. It's going to be a good game regardless. It's in Lambeau. They haven't beat us in Lambeau in, I think, 3 years or something like that. So I think they sneak away with the win in this. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes to overtime, just like last year's game does. And they beat us on like a Mason Crosby field goal or something like that. So I'm actually going to go with Randy on this one. I say we lose this one in overtime on the road. So
far, Rick has us 2-0. SK and myself, we're 1-1 through the first 2 games.
All right. So now we go to the School of Hard Knocks. Play the Oakland Raiders in Minnesota. John Gruden comes to town. Antonio Brown, the circus, as you would like to say, comes to town. How you feeling about this game, Rick? I think we should all be in unison with this, but what you got for this game, Rick?
I think the Raiders are much improved from last year. Josh Jacobs, I think it's going to be the key player to stop, not Antonio Brown. I think he's gonna be a good running back for them with Rich Incognito, which I think he'll be back for that third game. But I think our defense is too much at home for the Raiders, and Vikings will take that game at the US Bank Stadium.
Randy?
You're right. He is suspended the first 2 games of the season. He'll be back for that game against the Vikings week 3. That will be his first game back. Doesn't matter. Vikings will win that one. Derek Carr, 2 or 3 years ago, was looking like the next star quarterback of the league, and it just hasn't worked out since. And this is the year that he's really going to have to prove it if he's going to stay on with Oakland or soon to be the Las Vegas Raiders. I think the Vikings, I think they're a more well-rounded team than the Raiders. They're going to win this game.
Yeah, I'm right there with you guys as well. I think we come away, or we actually pull away either late in the third quarter, early in the fourth. I'm actually going to say Xavier Rhodes has probably the best game of his of this season in this game. It seems like when we go up against these bigger, big-name receivers, he actually has good games against them. So I think he's going to have a good game against Antonio Brown. We're going to scheme very well against that offense. And I think we come out somewhere around 31-18, something like that. I think we pull away late. So
I can see that.
Next game, big one, very big one. We've struggled here in the past. It is in Chicago. Chicago Bears. Who you got, Randy?
This is
not prime time. It's not prime time.
It's a loss. Now, here's what's crazy about Chicago. Mitch Trubisky, on his first reads, I swear to God, is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. when he snaps the ball and he's like, I'm throwing it to this guy. Like, that's just who I'm throwing it to. He's one of the best in the league. When you get him thinking and having to look around and switch to a second, third, fourth read, he's one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. However, that defense is too damn good. If the Vikings defense can be anything close to what they were last year, I think the first and second levels are going to be great. The defensive line is going to be great. The second level with the linebackers, I think Eric Hendricks and Anthony Barr, however I feel about Barr, I think they're still going to be solid. That third back end level outside of Harrison Smith scares me a lot. If they can just keep it together, then you force it between Mitch Trubisky and Kirk Cousins, who makes the least amount of mistakes. And even still with that, Kirk Cousins, he has his issues too. I just think the Chicago Bears, I'm going to give them the edge in this one. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I just don't see it. I just don't see it. I'm gonna say a loss.
I'm going to go with the upset here. I think Chicago had one of those years last year where they didn't have a very tough schedule. They benefited from not having a lot of guys injured, kind of like how we were in 2017. We didn't have a lot of injuries. We didn't necessarily have a weak schedule, but we kind of just, when you're on a roll and you get going, it's kind of hard to stop. I think Chicago's defense isn't as good as they were last year. They lose Vic Fangio going to the Denver Broncos, who was a huge part running that defense. So do not take that for granted. I think Chuck Pagano is the defensive coordinator now for the Chicago Bears, if I'm not mistaken, which he is a good defensive coordinator, but Vic Fangio is on a different level as him. So I think we actually come out and Dan Bailey hits the game-winning kick in Chicago.
Real quick before you go, Rick, SK, you brought up a really, really good point that I was thinking about, but you brought up at the last moment. Our kicker is way better than whatever hell sauce they have over there in Chicago or at Soldier Field. So when it comes down to a kick, I'm with you, okay? Because they still can't figure out their kicker situation.
Yeah, they're worse than us. They're worse than us.
What you got, Rick?
Well, my only concern, I do believe this game is going to be won in the trenches. My only concern for the Vikings is if they're going to be able to have their left guard situation in place by then. Because I just need to have Garrett Bradbury solely focus on Hakeem Hicks. I think that's where this game is gonna be decided. If we can contain Hicks, because that way you can also try to slow down Khalil Mack. If we're able to do that in the interior, I think the Vikings have a chance to win this game. A close game. I agree with that. Fangio makes a big difference not being in Chicago. But I will take the Vikings as well.
Okay, Rick is taking. Rick, real quick. Okay. You brought up something that's really interesting, and I'm glad that you did. I understand Pat Elflein, he's been the punching bag for this offensive line in the preseason. He hasn't looked. Okay, my question is this. I don't think that Pat Elflein has been this just complete sieve at left guard where he's just been a complete disaster like a Tom Compton. He hasn't been productive like his rookie year at center. Could translate that to left guard. But I still think he's been relatively okay because he has got steamrolled a couple of times. But he's also made a couple of really good plays as well from what I've seen in the preseason. Am I wrong? Like, it's to say, okay, Pat Elflein, if he's not as great as he was as his rookie year, he's just league average now? Or am I wrong? Do you think he's even worse than that?
No, I think he's had a couple of rough games during the preseason, but there's only one Hakeem Hicks, and he's a handful. He's a handful. I think if Garrett Bradbury is going to be distracted, having to help Elflein, that could be problematic. But I think if Elflein is or whoever is going to end up being left guard of that game is able to follow their assignment, and Bradbury can focus on Hakeem Hicks, I think that's our best chance.
Yeah, I believe that too. He hasn't shown me much, but like I said, I can't put too much weight on that. But kind of the way you explained it, Randy, it's kind of what happened with Anthony Barr. He had a really good rookie season. His numbers have dipped since his rookie season. When you think about it,
I can see that. I definitely would agree that he has disappointed in the fact that what we saw from his rookie year, we thought this is going to be our franchise center. Yep. Whether he's a swing guy that goes to the guard, certainly our franchise offensive lineman. He's certainly not that. I just think that, honest to God, I think he's been okay. I really do. I just haven't seen this. Oh man, we might need to get Brett Jones. With Brett Jones, he's nice too. Yeah. But I just haven't seen this hit the panic button yet because I saw Matt Khalil play. I've seen a lot of bum-ass offensive linemen play, and maybe that's what I'm basing it off of, to where he's not that bad. He can get the job done enough. I don't know. Maybe we're just agree to disagree on that one.
Well, we'll find out by week 4. I'll tell you that.
But everybody's going to get destroyed by Chicago. We can't set that as the line.
Not so quick, my friend. It's a whole new season.
So SK, you've got 3-1. Rick, you've got. Wait, did you go win or loss in Chicago?
Oh, he's got 4-0.
4-0. SK's 3-1. I'm 2-2. So I'm Mr. Negative. But okay, let's go. Week 5.
All right. I think we're all going to be in unison on this game. We can make this one quick. In New York against the Giants. Everybody raise your hand. Vikings.
Win. That's a win.
That's a win.
You don't even need to break that down. That's a win.
Exactly.
We're gonna break Pat Shurmur's heart.
There we go. That's a win.
All right. Next big game. Really big game. Always a big game, at least especially recently. And all 3 of us will actually be at this game, so it should be fun. Eagles come to Minnesota to play the Vikings. Rick, I'm going to start with you. What do you have winning it?
That is going to be the toughest home game of the season. And I do believe it's going to be a very close game. But the Vikings will take it at home.
Ooh, 5-0, baby. What do you got, Randy?
No, actually, Rick, that puts them at 6-0. The Vikings, they're about to just sweep the whole league, apparently. I got this as a win as well. And here's my piping hot take when it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles. I've got a brother-in-law. He's going to be at that game. We'll all hang out. You'll meet him. All my in-laws, they're Eagles fans.
Oh, I got one
this
too.
Okay. Here's my piping hot take. I thought that the NFL is a system league. You can have all the talent in the world, but talent with players has to match with talent with coaching. It has to mesh together. Not like any other sport. Basketball, you can put LeBron James on the Memphis Grizzlies. They'll go to the Western Conference Finals automatically. We get that.
Yep.
I thought that Nick Foles and Doug Peterson had the perfect match. They were the perfect match together. And I said, if I were running the Eagles, I would have traded Carson Wentz and I would have kept Nick Foles because Doug Peterson is there. Yep. My point is, I fear the Philadelphia Eagles way more with Nick Foles than I do with Carson Wentz. Straight up. I really, really do. Carson Wentz is nice, but I look at him as a quarterback that's just talented and, we can beat him. I've got us winning that game, whether our cornerbacks are trash or not. I think we got this. I really, really do.
I think we got it.
Nick Foles, I would say, I don't know about that, but no, that's a win for me.
Never doubt Nick Foles again.
Nope.
But, I actually got us winning that game as well. I think it's going to be a really, just like Rick said, it's going to be a really, really tough game. Probably our toughest home game of the year. And I think it either it goes into OT or it comes down to a last-minute field goal by Dan Bailey. But I think we come out on top in that. And I think the difference in that game is us running the ball and us running the ball consistently. I know the Eagles have a really, really good run defense. At least they have had a really good run defense the past, 3 years. Probably top 3, top 5 rush defense these past few years. So it's going to be tough, but I think this new scheme, this new system that Kubiak brings to the table, running game might not look great early on, but one thing I do know is that we're going to stick to running the ball, whether it's working early on or not. So I think we come out on top. I actually see it as somewhat of a low-scoring game, maybe like a 21-17 type game, 21-24, somewhere along those lines. But it's going to be a really good game. So next one, I think we can all raise our hands on this one. It is a divisional game against the Detroit Lions in Detroit. I'm going Vikings. Raise your hand if you're going Vikings here.
That's a win.
I am, but let me add something real quick. Okay.
All right.
I have them winning this game. However, if our cornerbacks are still struggling, even against the Detroit Lions, Matthew Stafford, Jesse James, T.J. Hawkinson, Kenny Galladay, Marvin Jones, they have a lot of weapons in the passing game. Okay? Kerryon Johnson even. They have a lot of weapons in the passing attack. I'm going to say they win, but our cornerbacks really need to step up and play their ass off and not take them lightly. So I'll say it's a win, but come on.
It's going to be tougher than what people think. I mean, that's every time we play the Lions. It's a tough game regardless. It's a divisional game, and they always play us tough.
And that's even when our cornerbacks were good.
Exactly. So I think that's going to be a tough game as well, but I do have us coming out on top. And then we get the possible reunion, Thursday Night Football primetime game, wink, wink. Case Keenum possibly coming in as a starting quarterback for the Washington Redskins, along with Adrian Peterson coming in as a starting running back for the Washington Redskins. Like I said, Thursday night, primetime. This is Kirk's first primetime game of the season. Who do you see coming out on top, Randy?
Vikings. Now, speaking of the Redskins, if Bruce Allen ever wants to get his head out of his ass and trade Trent Williams, that's fine, because he's not playing for you. He doesn't trust your medical staff. Trade him. Vikings will win this game.
Rick?
It's going to be a sweet homecoming for Case Keenum if he even starts by that point. But I do think that the Vikings, in the end, will come on top. I think Kirk Cousins, maybe this will be one game that he's looking forward to, playing against his former team. So Vikings win.
All right, cool. I got Vikings as well.
I just want to say for right now, you guys Rick has the Vikings at 7-0.
Woo-woo.
SK, you've got them at 6-1 right now.
6-1.
So,
and you're what?
Got them at
5-3, 5-2.
Got them at 5-2.
Those are all good positions to be in 7 games through the season. I can say that. But now we hit a little bit of a tough stretch. 3 of the next 4 games are against former playoff teams. First game is on the road against the Kansas City Chiefs. It's going to be a tough one. Patrick Mahomes, that high-powered offense against our good defense. But like we've been talking about, what is our secondary going to look like? And this is one game. Your secondary has got to be on point. So I'll start with you, Rick. Who do you got in this game? You're going to this game, aren't you, Rick?
I will be at that game. So can I give two predictions? Is there two option?
Run
choice?
Run it.
I'm gonna say, if I'm indeed correct, and the Vikings arrived at that game at 7-0. The Chiefs were to arrive at that game the same way, or 6-1.
Mm-hmm.
If the game were to be flexed,
we lose
to a Sunday night football game. Which, by the way, that would ruin my travel plans, because I gotta be at work the very next day on Monday.
Call off.
But in any case, if it's flexed to the 7:15 Sunday night football, I will say the Chiefs will probably win that game. If the game remains at a noon game, I think that's going to be the coming out party for the Vikings at the national stage, meaning winning that game in Kansas City is going to put the Vikings in the radar as a Super Bowl contender. Woo. So those are my two predictions.
Oh, Randy, looks like you want to say something right now.
Well, first I want to say my math is all jacked up. Actually, Rick, after the the Redskins pick, you have them at 8-0, not 7-0. SK, you have them at 7-1, and I have them at 6-2 before this Chiefs game. So my math is all screwed up after that. My apologies. The Minnesota Vikings have no shot in this game. I don't care when they play them. They are going to destroy our secondary. They're going to light Xavier Rhodes. He's probably going to fake injuries 6 or 7 times during that game as Tyreek Hill or Sammy Watkins. He's going to have to switch off and say, let me take the easier wide receiver on that one. They're still going to attack him. I don't think the Vikings have a chance in this game. I just don't. Patrick Mahomes, we had him on the Minnesota Vikings. He probably wouldn't be Patrick Mahomes. But he's not. He's with Andy Reid, the quarterback extraordinaire. I think this is a loss. I really do.
Yeah, I'm not going to go to the extreme of us not having a chance in this game, but I do think the Chiefs come out on top. I think it's closer than what Randy may think. I think it's going to look more along the lines of how the Rams game looked last year. It's going to be scoring back and forth. Only guy you really need to key on the Chiefs defense is Frank Clark. Other than that, you can pick their defense apart. Or Tyrann Mathieu as well. But other than that, he doesn't really send fear into our eyes or into our offense's eyes. So, but I do think Chiefs come out on top. It's in Kansas City. That stadium is so hard to play in. So I think the Chiefs come out on top, anywhere along the lines of 38, 34, somewhere along there. So we move on to our next game, back-to-back road games. We travel to Dallas to play the Dallas Cowboys, another primetime game. I believe it's Sunday night on NBC. Randy, who you got? Dallas Cowboys?
Vikings. They're going to win this game. Dak Prescott, I don't even know why he's even in talks to get $30+ million a year. I would pay him $15 million at the most. I don't care that it's a quarterback's market, because you could replace him with Ryan Fitzpatrick or Josh McCown or even Case Keenum, and you wouldn't know the difference. Kyle Sloter. Well, no, with Kyle Sloter, they actually might have a better chance. You wouldn't even notice the difference, because Zeke Elliott makes that whole team go. And even still, I think our run defense is going to be top-notch this year. Say what you want about our secondary. I think this will be a win no matter what. This is prime time. This is Sunday night. Vikings are going to get this win.
I'm right there with you. you pretty much took the words out of my mouth. If you can stop the run against these Cowboys, it should be a win. So I think our run defense does a very good job against Zeke. We key on that run and we put the ball in Dak's hands. And I think our defense is good enough to hold them to under 20 points. And I'm sure. I mean, they got a really good defense as well in Dallas. Let's not sleep on that too.
They do.
So I think
they do.
I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think it's going to end with both teams under 21, 20 points. So I do pick the Vikings, but it's going to be a tough, grinded-out type game. Rick?
Well, I'll tell you what. If this game was at any other time of the day other than prime time, I might have a different opinion. This is going to be our first loss.
Oh, first loss for Rick.
It's going to be our first loss, and I will be at that game as well, so that'll be tough because looking forward to meeting a lot of folks from our group down in Dallas. But I think the Vikings will have their first loss of the year there.
Cool. All right.
Through
next
10 games, Rick has the Vikings at 9-1, SK 8-2, myself 7-3.
All right, not bad. Next game, Broncos come to Minnesota. Everybody raise their hand for Vikings. We all in unison here?
Yeah. Vikings win.
Vikings win. All right, Vikings over the Broncos. Now this is the one right here. This is the game that just every year, I don't know why and how, but we always just seem to find ourselves in Seattle, late in the year, on the road, Monday night against the Seahawks. I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. We'll lose this one. It's on the road. It's in Seattle, and it's just like Seattle has our freaking number, man. I don't know what it is. So I'm going to go Seattle over the Vikings in this game. It's Monday night. It's prime time. It's in Seattle. I mean, what do you expect? Randy?
This is a loss. Mobile quarterback. We always struggle against them. Read options, whatever. And with the read option, you can mix in play action and go over the top with their wide receivers. I just think I just don't. And it's in Seattle. These types of quarterbacks we always struggle against. I'll believe it when I see it. I think this is a clear loss for us.
All right, Rick.
Well, I already had this game as a loss even before the Jadeveon Clowney trade news.
Oh God!
This weekend. So I think this is the game where I'm gonna kind of steal the words from Randy from Kansas City. This is the game that I really believe we have little to no chance.
So this is our blowout game in your eyes?
I don't know that it's going to be a blowout, meaning that we get destroyed, but I do believe we have, like I said, almost no chance to win.
You know these Viking teams. Every year we have that one game where we just go out and we just look absolutely terrible, and I think this is going to be that game against Seattle. I really do. This is going to be our Buffalo of last year. Shit, hell, this could be our Seattle of last year.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a bad game for us, but following week, we have the Lions at home. So I think we all have that one as a win as well. So loss to the Seahawks and then win against the Lions at home. We all good with that?
Vikings win.
I'm good with it. Same thing, secondary step up, and you're fine.
All right, so next game, this is a big one. This is also another primetime game unless it gets flexed. On the road, I'll be at this game. Vikings at the Chargers in a little tiny stadium of like 10,000 people. I'm going to go, you know what? I'm going to give us a primetime win right here. I'm going to give us a primetime win. We're going to have the majority of the crowd. It's going to be a Vikings crowd, so it's going to feel like a little mini home game at TCO Performance Center. I think we come out on top. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think we come out 34-27, somewhere along those lines. What about you, Rick?
The Chargers not having Derwin James is a big blow to them. And It looks like Melvin Gordon might be allowed to go into trade talks and could leave the Chargers. But I just, again, primetime game. I just I just don't trust Cousins in this game. So I think that's going to be another loss for the Vikings.
I think that as long as our pass rush is on point, I've been watching Philip Rivers for a long time. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. The issue with him is that all you got to do is hit him a couple of times, and he gets super rattled. He gets very erratic at times during games. He gets off his cue. If the pass rush is on point, which I think they'll be one of the best in the league at this year, I think we'll win. I think the Vikings will win. Even though it's in prime time at LA, at their 1,200 square foot stadium, I think the Vikings will win that game.
Nice. I like what I'm hearing. So that brings us to our last two games. We just like last year, we end our last two games at home. Or actually, no, our last game was at home last year. But this year, our last two games are divisional games at home. First game is against the Packers in Minnesota. Who you guys got, Randy?
I had them losing week 2 at Green Bay. I think they'll win. I think they'll beat them at home this time, whether it's because Green Bay doesn't have the season that they want and they just mail it in by this time at week 16, or simply because it's at home. And I think that we'll beat them when it comes to that. So I'm going to go Vikings over Green Bay, and this time it will be at US Bank Stadium.
Yep, Green Bay has never beat Minnesota in US Bank Stadium. Just a little side note there. Rick, what you got?
And that trend is going to continue. Packers are not going to beat the Vikings at US Bank Stadium, so I will take the Vikings in that game.
Cool. Same here. I got Vikings coming out on top. And
so
I think
just before you get...
before the last game.
Go ahead. Are you getting ready to go to the last game?
I was just saying I think we win this game against the Packers handily. I don't think it's very close. But give us our records before we get into this last game. See where we're at.
SK and Rick, you got the Vikings both at 12-3. I've got the Vikings at now 11-4.
All right, so we're in a position here to, if we're at 12-3 or 11-4, chances are is we might already have the division wrapped up, at least a playoff. We'll have a playoff spot wrapped up by that time. More than likely. If we got at least 11 wins, we'll have a playoff spot wrapped up more than likely. And depending on where the Bears are, this game can come down to the division. I think, was I the only one that picked them to beat the Bears on the road, or did Rick pick them as well to win on the road against the Bears?
I got him. I got him winning in Chicago.
Okay, so yeah, that's right. You had them undefeated. Okay, so more than likely this will be for the division or a first round bye. So regardless of whether Chicago's in it or not, it's going to be a meaningful game. So we're in the position to where you either want that first round bye or you lose and you have to play the following week. So I think we're at home. We kind of, Chicago beat up on us last year, and we're going to remember that. And we gave the fans such a huge disappointment in week 17 last year with how our offense looked. And it was just a complete I can't even explain it. It was just terrible.
It was pathetic.
Yeah, it was pathetic. That's a perfect word for it. It was pathetic when Chicago had nothing to play for. So I'm going to say we go out here and we beat Chicago and we end the season, 13-3. What about you, Randy?
I've got this as a loss. I just don't see it. I think
Chicago sweep us.
I think Chicago will sweep us, but we'll still go 11-5. I think it will be a closer game than it was last year in week 17. But Chicago, they're just a special team, man. Even with their limited quarterback play, with the kicker situation that they have, that could be the wild card right there, like I talked about in week 2. But if it doesn't come down to that, I just think the pressure that they bring, Akeem Hicks, Khalil Mack, they just bring so much pressure. And you know how Kirk Cousins gets when there's pressure. Dude, he throws the ball into the backside of the barn of hell when nobody's pressuring him. So just think about when Chicago's really just throwing it on. I think it'll be too much. I have them finishing 11-5.
11-5. All right, Rick, where you got us?
Well, last year, coming into that game, I Might have been one of the few people that said the Vikings were going to be eliminated from the playoffs.
Yes, you did. I remember that.
And that game was going to be a harsh lesson for us. But this year is going to be different. I think this year the Vikings are going to take revenge, and they're going to sweep Chicago, and they will win the division and be a contender in the conference and end up the year 13-3.
Lesson learned from last year. So 13-3, right where we were at the end of 2017. Realistic Randy has us at 11-5 finishing the season. So seems like we're all positive here. I mean, Mr. Negative Randy got us 11-5. So that's got to tell you something. So you got to feel at least good enough for this team. So things are looking up, man. It's going to be exciting. That will wrap it up there for our 2019 regular season predictions. Realistic Randy, Rick Sosa, I am SK. Peace.